Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gayle Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. My guest today is Kim McIntyre, and Kim is such an interesting young woman. She's a stress relief strategist and a laughter yogini or yogini, but I think it's yogini. She teaches people how to live with less stress and more joy. And throughout her life, she's challenged herself to expand her comfort zone from overcoming shyness to performing a one-woman show in New York, to becoming a teacher and speaker, to healing fear of deep water, to launching an online business, which was an endeavor that has her frequently reaching for every tool in her stress relief toolbox, which I can surely identify with. Her natural curiosity and love of self-discovery has led her to receive many certifications, including stress relief specialist, yoga teacher, transformational coach, interfaith minister, certified laughter leader, and yeah, there is such a thing as a laughter leader. And she has taught a weekly yoga and meditation class since 2005 and has been collecting stress relief tools for 3 decades. She shares her favorites through her website, joyfulbeing.com, and through her weekly newsletter, The Joyful Being Experience. Welcome, Kim, to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gail.
It is, I think, one of the greatest things that anybody can have is joy in their life. And I know that I have been joyful most of my life, but there was a time, a brief second or two when I wasn't the most joyful because things were just in such a mess with so many things happening at one time. So you are someone who is able to take all of this and kind of bring it down to its basics. So what drew you initially to the topics of stress relief and joy?
Well, the truth is, I desperately needed stress relief for myself. So throughout my life, I've been prone to feeling anxious and tense. And like you mentioned in my bio, I was very shy as a young child. I mean, these days it would probably be called social anxiety. And then I got bit by the theater bug, which really brought me out of my shell as I learned more about acting and went to college for theater. But when I moved to New York City in my 20s to pursue that acting career, the very intense nervousness that I felt auditioning turned into a big problem for me. I mean, it doesn't really inspire confidence to get hired when they can see your hands shaking and your ankles vibrating on your high heels. It just doesn't get you the job. So I knew I needed to do something. And so the first thing I found that helped was guided relaxation recordings. They were just a godsend for me to help bring that stress level down. And it always felt good to listen to them. And then from there, I just kept searching to find things that would help. And I took a ton of workshops and trainings and read piles of books. And over the years, I just amassed a collection of strategies and tools to lower that stress level and increase that feel good feeling, that happiness feeling. And then I started teaching what I learned and discovered that I felt more purpose and mission teaching than I did performing. And so I kind of, over the course of a few years, let go of that theater dream and went more into the teaching of other people and helping people because that became my passion.
It's interesting. They say, I don't know if this is true or not, but they say, they being, people who write about this, that most actors are not outgoing. They're not, they're not the kind of people that you would think are out there with all this confidence and so forth. That most of them are very shy and withdrawn, and they're more of an introvert than an extrovert. So, see, you fit right in. So that was good.
Yeah, and it was actually the theater training was very therapeutic for me in that in that way, that it really got me to inhabit other characters and play with emotions. And, it really got me out of my shell. So I think that that might be an experience for other introverted performers as well. I mean,
Well, it's true. Yeah.
I met some performers who were not so introverted, but some of us were. Yeah. So,
Well, you say that it's estimated that 75 to 90% of doctors' visits are for stress-related ailments, and I totally agree with that because I think stress can cause a lot of things we don't even think about. So, when you look at this, how do you think that stress reduction benefits health and well-being? I know that it certainly saves companies a lot of money if they can get the stress under control because their insurance costs go down, their productivity level goes up. There's so many things that are tied to this.
yeah, yeah. And first I just wanted to say what happens with the stress so that you can understand why it's important to manage it. When we have those high stress levels, our bodies produce too much cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And over time, this just aggravates all sorts of health problems. And I recently saw a paper was just recently published with evidence that people in the study with the highest cortisol levels actually had smaller brain size and were more had more difficulty thinking and concentrating. So stress really has serious side effects. And on a personal level, it can just make you feel not quite like yourself, feeling overwhelmed or frustrated or burned out, and all of that. And we're talking about joy, all of that can really just suck the enjoyment out of your life. Whereas stress reduction minimizes all those negative effects. It helps you to feel more calm and peaceful and gives you the opportunity to enjoy your life more. And it's empowering. If you know that there's something you can do to lower your stress level, that's empowering.
Well, that's true, and it's interesting because, when you talk about stress, of course, different things cause stress to different people and different kinds of stress. I consider myself not a very stressed out person, although I know that when I've gone for the occasional massage, which is not a lot, uh, people say I'm very tight. But I think I live a pretty, healthy, joyful life. So, what are some misconceptions about stress? Is it that certain people cause it? Do we cause it to ourselves? What happens with that?
Well, there's three misconceptions that I like to address, but you just brought up another misconception in your question, that sometimes people think if they don't have major symptoms, that they're not having stress. And your body is often the way that it will tell you that you're stressed. If you're tight and tense, there might be slightly more stress in your life than you think, or your body's reacting to something in that way. So that might be something to think about. But a main one that a lot of people have is that they think that all of their stress is due to external circumstances. And while circumstances and relationships and situations certainly play a role, it's our reactions to situations that play an even larger role. And I'm sure with your strong focus on mindset, that you understand what I'm talking about here with the attitude and the thoughts playing a role in your stress. So for example, one person might be really, really stressed about getting stuck in an unexpected traffic jam. They might even be yelling or frustrated at the other cars. Meanwhile, there's somebody in the next car over who, may not be thrilled to be sitting in traffic, has decided to stay calm and relaxed, maybe listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something. And that's the same exact circumstance with two very different reactions. So, yes, circumstances play a role, but our reactions are what feed that stress level.
Well, you're
And
absolutely right. I
yeah.
mean, mindset has a lot to do with how you perceive things and how you experience things. And I have seen as I have let go, shall we say, in quotes,
Mhm.
let go a little bit.
Right.
For example, yesterday I was traveling in an area that was just bumper to bumper to bumper, and that's exactly what I did. I was listening to a CD in my car, and I said, I'll get there when I get there because I pride myself
Mhm.
on being on time. and I do not like being late. And I had left in plenty of time, but there are, circumstances,
Right.
accidents happen, and so forth. And I was really proud of myself that
Good.
I said, oh, okay, when I get there, I get there, and that's it.
Exactly.
And I wasn't, how I used to be prepared to make excuses. Well, this, well, that. Now I just get there and I say hello and I'm there. That's it.
That's
Now,
awesome. Yeah.
so you had some other ones you wanted to give us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Another misconception is that people think that they have to have a lot of time in order to have stress relief. Like they have to have time to go to a massage or to go to a yoga retreat for a week or something. And, those are great things to do, but there are simple stress relievers that are quick that can be integrated into people's lives, even if they don't have a lot of time. So these are the types of tools I give to people for free through my newsletter because I feel it's so important and so needed. And then the third
Well,
myth,
wait a minute.
yeah,
Give us one right now. Give us one right now, so we'll have it in our
okay,
toolkit.
sure. So one that's very simple to do is take a nice deep breath in. And as you hold the breath for a few seconds to tense all the muscles in your body tight, 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 tight. And then when you exhale, let all that tension go. And that's a quick one you can do. If you're really tense, you might want to repeat the process 2 or 3 times, but it actually helps shed the tension in the body. And then the deep breath also helps with the stress relief. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Now give us number 3.
Number three. So, this third myth I think is pretty dangerous because I think it's pretty pervasive in society is the idea that being stressed equals being productive. So that people think that they need to be stressed in order to get things done. And I've seen this where people just kind of wear their stress like a badge of honor almost. And the truth is that the effects of stress, being frustrated or anxious or upset, that these things actually get in the way of productivity. They don't enhance it. And people get things done. If they're getting things done when they're really stressed out, they're succeeding in spite of their stress, not because of it. So, and sometimes people think that because they think stress is important to get things done, then they don't really think that it's a problem. But sooner or later, if that stress level is chronic and high, they're going to pay the price for it. And they'll be sitting in front of a doctor who's telling them they have to bring their stress level down or else, and they'll just have no clue how to do that. So,
Wow. Well, that's hard for me to believe that people think they're going to be more productive because they're stressed out. I mean, that just is so illogical to me that I
it
can't even
is
imagine
me too.
people. Yeah, I mean, I know people are stressed because
Yeah,
of their job or because of their family or because of
right.
illness or because of whatever. But boy, that's hard
I've
for me to.
actually had a debate with a gentleman once about that. He was like, "Well, people need that stress to get things done," and it was a very fascinating debate, actually.
Well, I can
Yeah,
believe that. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I'm sure. Of course, that would be to me a very autocratic kind of boss that says, this is what I want. This is when I want it. This is what I want done, and
mm,
don't come back to me until it's done. And so to
right.
me, that's the kind of person that would be. But you're this certified laughter leader. So tell us what that means. I mean, how do you? Are there some people that you just can't get to laugh?
Well, when I do laughter groups, what first to define certified laughter leader, I basically took a training back in 2001 to teach people how to jumpstart their own natural laughter with fake it till you make it kind of laughter. So, and even if they're fake laughing the whole time, they're still getting that stress relief benefit, and it may even lift people's spirits. So what I find is if people have, like, if say I'm doing a breakout session at a conference and people have chosen to come to my breakout session, I usually don't have any problem getting people to laugh. But if their boss has told them they need to take the class, then there's usually about 10% of the group that sit there, and it's really they're probably super introverted and it's just a little uncomfortable for them. So for them, I might have them just say, you can just sit and smile and enjoy what we're doing. Um, and but it's really to actually do it is pretty amazing. Like there's one person I remember who came to one of my laughter groups. Her daughter brought her because she hoped it would kind of lift her mother's spirits. The mother had been going through a really tough time with chemo, and And she was just wheeled in a wheelchair and looking really defeated and depressed and down and really kind of hopeless. And by the end of the evening, her face was glowing and radiant and all of that just from laughing.
Wow.
It's simple, but it's powerful.
I always said that my husband would have made a great plant in any audience because he just laughed up a storm. When he was watching television, he was laughing all the time. And I thought, that's what your profession should be. You should be a professional laughter. But, and then of course he always said to me, well, you don't have any kind of sense of humor. And yet a lot of people laugh at when I'm speaking, they'll laugh at my stories and things like that. And I think, well,
Right.
you just haven't seen that side of me evidently. But, what tips do you have for people who want to have more joy in their life? And why do you think they're not? I mean, is it the world we're living in today? Is it that people have so much responsibility or there's so much going on in their life? Why are they not experiencing joy? And then what can they do about that?
Well, I think to answer the why, I think yes, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And it's if they have the news on at all, it's kind of hard to stay joyful looking at what's on the news. Um, but our minds in general tend to notice what's wrong. And while that's a useful survival tactic inherited from our ancestors, but if we spend most of our time, our waking hours, anticipating trouble or complaining or noticing what's wrong, then there's no space for joy. So we need to, I think the most important thing we need to do is to choose to be on the lookout for it, to look and see the good around you, to really look for those opportunities to smile or to laugh. And there are a number of things you can do. I mean, one thing you can do is to kind of lean in the direction of joy. One thing I love to do is listen to upbeat, happy music, like a song like Happy by Pharrell. It's kind of hard not to listen to that and just feel that joyfulness come into your being listening. And and then sometimes though, if somebody is really down and in a funk, then going for joy may be too far of a stretch. So they might, in that instance, look for something that's comforting, whether it's a hug or a warm blanket or a cup of tea or time with your pet, something like that. And I have to also say, I'm not a medical doctor. So if someone is severely depressed or down or anxious chronically, then of course they need to get medical help or get some advice in that way. But for the average person, we just need to shift our focus a little bit in the direction of joy and be open to it. Yeah.
Well, I think joy is one of the most important things that you can have in your life. There's no question about it. So, in your life,
Hmm.
how have you cultivated joy?
Well, I like to try to make people laugh. That's one of my favorite things is to try to have a sense of humor about things, especially challenges. And there's one practice that I love to do. I think that gratitude and appreciation kind of lean you in the direction of joy naturally. And so there's one practice that I love to do where in this moment right now, I try to think of as many different things that I can to be grateful for or appreciative of. So, for example, in this moment, I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and to share all of this with your audience. And another thing I could be grateful for in this moment is that my neighbors don't have a leaf blower going right now. And so there's quiet for our interview. And I'm grateful for the technology that allows us to have this conversation and to have these conversations go out over the airwaves to other people. And, so on and so on. You would just spend as much time, a minute, 2 minutes, thinking of as many things in this moment that you're grateful for. And I find the longer I choose that grateful focus, then I'm increasing the odds of experiencing joy in my life. And, it just feels good to look at life that way. And then, of course, there's looking for ways to laugh more always. And one researcher found that people are 30 times more likely to laugh when they're with other people than when they're by themselves. So I try to make a point to call my friends who make me laugh or to try to make them laugh as just naturally bringing more joy into life and doing things like going to comedy clubs or just putting yourself in circumstances that lend themselves to joy and laughter.
It's interesting because, they make fun of this, but I love to watch animal videos that are funny. Of course, I adore animals, so I just
Right.
get a kick out of them. In fact, I was thinking about it when you were talking about the leaf blower. I had watched a video yesterday that came up on my computer screen that this dog just went running into this humongous, had to be 6 feet tall, 7 feet tall, bunch of leaves that someone had piled up, and this dog took off and just went shoo, right into the middle of it. And I thought, wow. But I do, and I will tell you that my cats are a big stress reducer for me. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, like around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, I'll lie down and immediately the cats are there. They're on top of me, and I just pet them and I'm watching TV and I just zone out. To me, it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing, So I think that that's all a part of it. Well, what about some additional resources for our listeners? And where can they find them? And where can they find you?
Okay, yes. Well, one book I'd like to recommend for people who like to read is a book by Marcy Shimoff called Happy for No Reason. It's one of my favorites. It's full of all kinds of practical things you can do to increase your happiness level. And they can find that on Amazon. I think it's also available as an audiobook on Audible as well. And on the resources page of my website, I list a number of different resources and recommendations. They can find that at joyfulbeing.com/resources. And if someone would like to create their own stress relief toolbox, things that help them to feel more happy and to feel less stressed, then I help people do that through my newsletter called the Joyful Being Experience. And they can find out more about that and sign up for that at joyfulbeing.com/free. So,
Wow,
and
definitely go. Yeah, go to her website because uh, joyfulbeing.com has got a lot of resources there. And I think that you'll find them very interesting and very, very valuable for you. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's terrific. Well, I'll tell you, Kim, it's been interesting because we sure have a lot of stress left in this world, and
yeah.
we have just a couple minutes left. What haven't we talked about that's really on your mind that you want to get out to our listeners?
Well, that shifting the focus to something that's more in the direction of less stress and more joy, there's one more tool that I'd love to share with your audience, and that is asking yourself high quality questions. So, for an example, a low quality question would be, what is wrong with me? you know, but a high quality question might be something like, what else is possible? What can I learn from this experience? What's the easiest way to do this? That's actually one of my favorites. What's the easiest way to get this done? One of my other favorites is, if I had a sense of humor right now, what might be amusing? so, and another question, if a good friend was in this situation, what would I tell them? It's just shifting in that direction with your mind. And then also making sure that you make that space for stress relief, whether it's just learning a deep breathing exercise that takes you 5 minutes that can make such a huge and big difference in your day. So to really make it a priority. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true because rather than saying, why is this happening to me? Maybe you say to yourself, what am I learning from this?
Oh, yeah.
So that I don't have this happen to me again. And hopefully there's a lesson in there somewhere, because it's difficult. There are so many things that we are being asked to do, and we are being delivered so many negative messages
Yeah.
during the day. I mean, you just really don't want to turn the news on because there's just so much there that you can just really get upset about. So you really
Yeah.
have to say to yourself, okay, what am I learning from this and how can I view this and what can I do to help a situation like this? So
Right.
that's all a part of it. So let's give them your website again and then where they can get those resources.
Yes, my website is joyfulbeing.com, and resources, joyfulbeing.com/resources or joyfulbeing.com/free. Lots of great stuff on my website for everybody to check out.
That's fabulous. Well, I'll tell you something, Kim. It's been a very, very enlightening experience today talking to you. This is all about living regret-free. I want to thank you, Kim McIntyre, so much for being with us today. I know that our listeners really, really benefited from it, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gayle. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.